Joining us on the phone, we've got the great Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Flea, good morning to you.
Well, good morning to you, Rod. I hope I can live up to the big word great, but I'm going to try for the trying guy, the guy that's trying to be good at something.
I think we pretty much know you're great. I mean, your career and your resume kind of speaks for itself, although we're learning a lot more about you in this new memoir. There's a brand new book out, Acid for the Children. I guess the first thing that hits me about the book is you could have used any concert photograph. You could have used maybe you at one of the early Lollapaloozas or you at Woodstock, you on stage with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. No, it is a 12-year-old Flea smoking a joint, and that sets the tone for the book. Dude, there's so much personal stuff in here about you as a youngster. Did you know that you were going to include that much stuff when you set out to write a book?
No, I didn't know. Before I started writing, I thought that I would just write a book about Chili Peppers. And, my relationship to the Chili Peppers, of course, from a real interior place. But once I started writing, I kind of, reacted against the idea of writing about the band. And just my love for books and literature in general pushed me towards writing about something that, before the band ever started, with the hope that the book could succeed just on the strength of being a good book without the band in it. But even though, to me, my childhood and my friendship with Anthony when we're kids and everything about my childhood, at least for my part, answers the question as to how and why the Chili Peppers are the Chili Peppers more than anything else I could say after the band started. And as regards to the cover, yeah, I'm 12 years old, sitting on a nude beach, smoking a joint. I started getting high when I was 11, and the book is about my childhood. Drugs were a pretty big part of my childhood, and something that did have to do with shaping me and causing me, opening doors, and also causing me, great trauma and turmoil, and made growing up much difficult than need be. However, it is my story, and honesty is a virtue.
Flea is our guest on the phone. The name of the book, it's a memoir, Acid for the Children. I didn't know that you were completely nude on the cover. You can't really see everything, but this whole running around naked in the Chili Peppers, this started out with you as a child. You're the one that seems like brought that element to the Chili Peppers.
Maybe. I definitely had a lot to do with it, that's for sure. I've always liked being naked, and if I'm home, the only time I put clothes on is when it's inappropriate to not have them on. And for a long time, that inappropriateness seemed so absurd to me that I purposely did go naked. One thing I learned, and kind of, writing the book was a real journey of self-discovery. And one thing I learned about myself during writing the book was in my yearning always as a kid to kind of be wild and be shocking and be crazy and get to a place beyond thought like that, where I always thought that's where all the magic happens. Sometimes I was selfish about that. And what I thought was funny or shocking or just the way that I want to be, was offensive to other people. And I started kind of valuing other people's degree of comfort in being in the world.
We're talking with Flea. We're talking about his new book, Acid for the Children, which is on shelves now. And we're going to tell you about he's going to be here in town signing the book.
I am so excited about that. Flea, I've been waiting for you to do this. What took you so long? I had scar tissue, and I learned more about this band that I love so much. But I think this is long overdue. Do you feel that way?
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I don't so much feel that it's overdue, is that I'm just happy to have written a book. I feel I took a lot of time and thought, and I wrote it by myself. And excuse me, I just burped. And I know it's kind of disgusting, but I just ate a big plate of Persian stew for breakfast. I just see a lot of value in sharing an honest story, in doing it in my own voice from a place in me that, people know me as being this guy on stage who, I take entertaining very seriously. And every time I step on a stage, I want to honor everybody that came. And I go buck wild, to the point of maybe even hurting myself. But I really want to uplift people. But there's another part of me that's always been a part of me that is probably the richest, and for myself, the most wealthy part of myself, my subconscious, my inside, the poetry of who I am, and to have the opportunity to express it through a book as a vehicle gives me a chance to share a part of myself that I think, addresses a lot of universal concerns among human beings, and that's what I wanted to do in my story. So it wasn't so much that it's overdue, but it finally, my life led me to a place where it was time to do it, and I did it, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to do it, and grateful to you personally that you care about it. So thank you very much.
I care about it a lot. And I was saying this morning to Rod, I said the books that are memoirs that kind of make me upset are the ones where the author is the hero in every chapter. And this is just such an amazingly truthful and bitterly truthful book where a lot of times, you're not the hero in some of these chapters. You're a jerk. And I love it because it's an easy read. Some chapters are a page long while others are 5. And then you come back with the hindsight, which is a full circle moment for the reader. And that is just so beautiful, man.
Thank you so much. For one, I really appreciate you reading the whole thing. For me, it was, like I said, it was the purpose of writing the book was not just to write a book for everybody, but really to write it for myself, to learn about myself. And that meant coming to terms with things about myself that I'm not proud of and that I know that I need to be a better person. So as much as I did, want to write about my hopes and dreams and joys and the triumphs I felt as a kid, it also meant, writing about things that I feel like an asshole about, and to just, I knew the only chance that I had of writing a book that could actually connect with people's hearts was to be blatantly honest about everything. And that meant, I don't want to unnecessarily flagellate myself, be too hard on myself, because I have the tendency to do that. That's caused me a lot of pain in my life. But also certainly not to, glorify myself in any way, but really just to write about how I really felt and the things that really shaped me and made me who I am. All those things from childhood that we all have, these important signposts that really make us who we are. And maybe they flash to our heads, but they're guiding us all the time. Things that hurt our feelings, things that make us afraid, things that give us feelings of comfort and hope and joy. All of those things, but when I sat down and started writing about them, they went from these murky feelings that are just kind of shapes and colors in the distance to, to bring them into clarity and to understand not just what happened, but what was underneath the things that happened. What drove me to be me? What drives me every day to do the shit that I do? Excuse my language. Thanks.
Flea is our guest. Acid for the Children is the name of the book. Now, I want people to buy the book, and I want them to discover things about you, but what can you tell us about meeting Anthony Kiedis? I just envisioned, because it's such an amazing marriage. I always like to fantasize, like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. They were in a room and a light shined down and lightning bolts and, it was just meant to be. What can you share with us? Was there that first meeting of Anthony and what your takeaway was?
Yeah, I tell that story in the book, and I do. It's one of those things that I remember crystal clear. And I had a friend of mine in a headlock, and we were wrestling. And it was the first week of 10th grade. We had just started high school. I had Tony Shure in a headlock, and I was giving him a noogie, which is when you have someone in a headlock and you grind your knuckles into the top of their head.
I'm well versed in the world of noogies.
Letterman in noogies.
Yeah. And it's kind of an obnoxious thing, a noogie. I've been the recipient of many a noogie, and it sucks, But anyways, at this point, I was giving a noogie, and Anthony walked up, and this was 1977, and every kid in the school had long hair, OP shorts, puka shells, was tan. It was California surfer 70s. And Anthony came up, and he had a crew cut, and he had muscles, and he looked hard. And he walked up, and he was like, "Lay off him." And I was like, whoa, and I backed off, and we kind of had this real quick exchange where he was glaring at me, and my friend Tony, who I had in the noogie, was actually my friend, kind of red-facedly introduced us, and I swear to you that in that moment, I knew that I met a person that would be the brother for the rest of my life.
You knew, right? Instantaneously, you knew that you were going to be connected with Anthony.
I just felt a very powerful feeling. Later that day, it started raining. We had PE class together, and because you couldn't go outside and play sports, we sat in the bleachers and sat next to each other and started talking. and we just connected very deeply and very quickly, and kind of became from that moment on inseparable for the rest of our lives. I mean, obviously, once we got older and started made money and got houses and stuff, we started living in different places. But our relationship has been, one of the most profound ones in my life. And being kind of a wild kid and coming from a home for myself where I didn't really feel safe or comfortable, I really looked for love and found love in my friends that I met, and my chosen family. And Anthony is someone I've always looked to for a lot of love and support, and he's someone that I've wanted to love and support. And our relationship, it's not all flowers and hippie love. It's been difficult, and we've had a lot of antagonistic times because of the intensity of both of our characters and the situations that we found ourselves in. But ultimately, we've just had each other's backs, and there's this sort of kinetic thing that happens between us that I haven't had with other people. I've had it with some other people in different ways, but like as much as he and I can fight like cats and dogs, we love each other deeply, and there's just this thing and this is a thing, like when writing about that part of my life, it was difficult for me to write about because it's something that it really is like mysticism, like it was just like kind of nature bringing us together. And oftentimes I feel like the band itself is something. It's not the band that keeps us together. It's like God has put the band there as a reason because our energy makes something that needs to happen. And maybe we could have been guys that made light bulbs or chairs or did some sort of science or something. But because of the culture and the place and time that we are and who we are and where we grew up, we ended up being in a band, And, like our friendship is the big thing in a band. The band is a vehicle that can contain it in some kind of way,
Well, you didn't invent the light bulb, but you wore them quite well.
Yeah, well, we did wear the light bulb, and I don't know if anyone's ever read Thomas Edison's Shaggy Dog, the short story by Roald Dahl, but evidently it was a dog that really thought of the last thing, the filament that Thomas Edison was searching for,
Wow.
that made the light bulb work.
Now, yes or no, you and Anthony have not read each other's books. Is that true?
I haven't read his one, and I don't know that he has or will read my one. It's a difficult thing. We're very different people, and we have, we're just by the nature of who we are. Like if we always see different things in situations and people and events.
You're not curious to see what he wrote about in his book about you? Because obviously you guys have known each other forever. You're not the slightest bit curious?
No, not really. Not that I'm not curious. I think it might be difficult for me. Yeah, I don't know. There might be a time like when I sat down to start writing mine. I had never read his. And I thought, well, now I definitely can't read it because I don't want to be thinking about like whatever our shared experiences are. I don't want to be thinking about his take on it when I'm writing it, thinking, I'm going to set the record right. What he wrote wasn't right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go into some like ego battle about what's the truth. You know what I mean? And even though I know that his book goes way beyond the band starting, and mine's just about my childhood, we just see things differently always. And I think that's the thing that makes our band work too. Like if we both had the same concept and the same idea about things, then we wouldn't be fulfilling the puzzle. We wouldn't be both bringing different pieces, And so I don't know. But I did think to myself, like maybe when I'm done with this, I will read his book, and maybe I will read it now. I don't know. It's a funny thing reading your best friend's book. It's weird.
Flea is our guest on the phone from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now just hear me out, because you've had a really good film career, and you've been in a lot of stuff. So just hear me out. I think that Queen movie opened up a huge door for rock movies, the success of that. And we know that we kind of want to see more. So that's kind of the classic rock. And then The Dirt with Motley Crue kind of took care of that whole 80s thing. The door is wide open for a quote-unquote alternative band movie. And I'm thinking between you and Nirvana, I really think that one of you two needs to make a move. would you be up at all for a Red Hot Chili Pepper movie where you guys maybe served as, people on the set to kind of observe and kind of oversee everything?
I don't know.
I vote
But
you.
I
vote
honestly
yes.
don't know the answer to that question. If something seemed like an artistically viable project that, if for me, if anything was anything about sensationalism or anything like that, I just don't really care. I think our story is of value. But speaking of Queen movies, because you did mention the Queen movie,
Yes.
I'm acting in a movie called Queen and Slim that is coming out this Thanksgiving, and I think it's a really important and powerful film, and I encourage everybody to see it. Queen and Slim, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Joe Turner Smith, with me in the part of Mr. Shepard.
And obviously, because of your work off the top of my head, obviously Big Lebowski, but Baby Driver, Son-in-Law, Back to the Futures, like it's something that you enjoy. You enjoy acting. I mean, it seems such a departure. You're such a maniac on stage. Everything that anyone's told me about acting is sit around and wait. That doesn't seem to be your character in life.
I do enjoy acting, and I really treasure my solitude. Any time that I have to sit and be quiet and think about art and books and music and literature and, film, things that I really love, things that I see as like the high water marks of possibility for human beings, I really do treasure it. But to be transparently honest, I used to really love acting when I felt like when I would just kind of wing it. But since I feel like I've actually taken it seriously and gotten good at it, I really love it. But no, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's hard work. There's nothing fun about it, but I take great, I see a lot of value in it. I really like when I learned about acting as a means to like really channel a deep part of myself and to express it through a character. That art form is just awesome. And, like playing music or writing or acting, like any of the art forms that I've, been lucky enough to involve myself in, it's all about getting to a place beyond thought, getting to a place where you're tapping your truest spirit and letting it come out, and when you're like working with actors and you're working with other people who also understand that truth and you're able to like all bring out like these parts of yourself that you might not be proud of or you might really like, but whatever it is, and you do that, it's an awesome thing. But it's not always fun. It can be painful. I've been reduced to a shaking, nervous wreck of tears in, acting.
Flea is our guest on the phone. The name of the book, Acid for the Children. He is going to be in town signing this book, and we'll have details for you.
And speaking of in town, Texas is its own pocket of wonderment, as is the East Coast. But I lived in LA for a little bit, and I always wondered, how do the kids in LA deal? Like, what is it like to grow up in LA as an adolescent? And you pretty much nail that in the book. Can you talk about just how much that area influenced you and why that was so important to include in your book? You pretty much raised yourself, man, out in the streets of LA.
My situation is probably different because my household was very unstable. And from the age of 11 in LA, I was just running around the streets out in Hollywood till like 3, 4 in the morning. And, this is Hollywood in the 70s. I moved to Hollywood in 72 and just became a street kid from a very young age. And, it was wild. It was in some ways really healthy because I encountered every kind of person, every flavor of person, every kind of freak, every kind of art, all these things, and I learned a lot about the world, but it was also very dangerous. I got into a lot of, doing petty crimes and doing drugs and being in a situation where I could have really been hurt many, many a time. And, obviously the place where I was, Hollywood in the 70s, was out of control. You think about it, like when I came to LA in 72, the 60s peace and love hippie movement had ended. Charlie Manson happened. The hippie thing was done. That became something that Coca-Cola was selling with I Love to Teach the World to Sing. It was no longer like a real, the core of the vibrant, essence of it had ended. And we moved into something else. And I think like before punk rock happened in the kind of late mid-70s, it was like this sort of exploitation of like what was a beautiful thing, the free love of the 60s, became this very exploitative cocaine and drugs and people really preying on one another. And that combined with the like insanity of show business in Hollywood and the part of Hollywood that I grew up in, which was the poor side of town where people were struggling to get by. It was just a wild place, you know, and I think all teenager stories, all coming of age stories are all universal. Like we all deal with growing up and trying to love ourselves, trying to come to terms with our sexuality, our all the our parents and yearning for love and yearning for connection, not being able to find it. But it's a particular, like you say, the backdrop of mine is Hollywood in the 70s, and it did have a particular flavor. And in writing my story, it was really important for me to, evoke that in the way that, not just like writing what happened, but what was happening that day. How did my clothes feel against my skin? What did the shit in the street smell like? What was going on? Like, to really taste it and smell it and feel it is a hallmark of good writing. And I'm such a lover of literature that I just wanted to do my damnedest to honor literature that I love and to try to evoke that. So I hope that people do feel that in that time, in that place.
Flea, I can't thank you enough for all of your time. And this is 100% just for me. Bust a Move, Young MC. Where are those pants with all of the with all of the stuffed animals sewn to them? Where are those pants?
You know what's crazy is that I had those pants made. God, I wish I could remember the girl's name. She was so cool. She played in this great band from San Francisco, but I can't remember. But a girl made me those pants, and I loved them so much. I wore them in the Chili Peppers Higher Ground video and in that Bust a Move video that I got burned on the cash for, even though I co-wrote the song. But
I didn't know that.
But, yeah, and they sold like 80 billion records, and I got like a bag of weed and $200. But however, right around that time was the first time I ever made money. I'd always lived in like little dingy Hollywood apartments, and right when I got those pants, we signed our deal, and we're just about to make Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And for the first time in my life, I got paid. I bought a house in the Hollywood Hills, part of Hollywood called Los Feliz. I was all excited. I'd never been robbed. My first night in my fancy new house, I parked my car out front, my '67 convertible Camaro, and boom, I had my leather jacket and those pants in the trunk. Someone broke in and stole it and robbed me.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. I was like, that's what you get for making money and getting a washer and a dryer and a car and a house. You get robbed. So that's what happened to me.
Those should be in a museum somewhere.
Smithsonian. They should be.
Come on.
Yeah, so they exist probably like in the garbage can of some petty thief's bedroom.
Well, either that or it's like somebody that's stealing, that's sitting on a stolen Picasso that they can't do anything with it. Because once it's out there, you'll be outing the fact that you own it.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they turned up somewhere someday. That was like in, 89 or something.
So
90.
great. Flea, you're awesome, man. Thank you so much. I agree with you 100% because I used something earlier. I said, dude, you're a maniac up there on stage. You're one of the most respected bass players in all of music, not just rock and alternative. But the way that this book is written and what you're saying, people are seeing such a different side of you. And that's got to feel good to say, hey, listen, I'm not this one two-dimensional guy. I've got all of this going on. And I think it comes across in the book. And I don't think you need any validation, but I think it's coming. I think it's going to come back to you big time with this book. And I expect just nothing but happy readers when they're done with it.
Oh, well, thank you so much to both of you. And I think it's a good idea about the Chili Pepper movie, but I don't know. I need Joe Pesci to play me, I think.
It's a gift. This book is a gift, so thank you.
No, thank you so much for caring. I really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Flea. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.